There's no way Change of Pace is a trick jumping tutorial now. Other than Snow Dram, this kingdom also has many cool tricks and movement options. Here you will learn which ones are suitable for your level. I'm Danster and this is Change of Pace for Snow Kingdom.
Climbing out of the trenches, reaching for higher heights.
Chasing me along, all I want is you. When we was chasing time.
Well, I am the boss, I am the Don, I am the one they call.
I ain't got much to explain though. But then I was running for bangles. I was still minimum wage though.
If you haven't watched the introduction video, make sure to check it out to understand how this series works. As a quick summary, there will be different strats for different skill levels. The lower ones will be the base for the higher ones. If you're feeling confident though, that you already know the strats for a pace, feel free to check the timestamps to find the skill level that fits you best. Now, let's get moving.
I'm just a kid with a glimmer of hope. I'm just a kid with a kid and potential to glow.
The first pace is for runners with a PB of 104 or 105, and the movement is meant for a targeted sum of best of 103 flat. After the final cutscene, immediately roll to the right and try to keep a straight line. Go down the slope and simply roll down without boosting. Then roll off to the left and try to land around here. Then simply start running, go around the corner and go in between the icicles. You might notice that you have some very fast running speed from time to time. This is called Clapfire, and we will talk about it in later paces. For now, you don't have to worry about it. Just take it if you get it and try to preserve the speed in that case. Now start roll boosting and time a final boost before entering the water. Instantly jump and dive when touching the surface, then roll over this hill and into the water again. Do the last roll boost right before entering the water, as that will give Mario a bunch of speed to cross the water more easily. Jump and dive, then roll boost up towards Captain Toad. Now roll cancel when you're close to him. This roll cancel can be quite tricky, as you obviously don't want to hit Toad with your cap throw. There are multiple ways to avoid that, and in the end it comes down to personal preference. Try to mess around with roll cancels in different directions and see what works best for you here. Probably the simplest way is roll cancelling to the left of Toad, then instantly turning towards him. In my opinion, the easiest and most consistently fast method is roll cancelling backwards. Just try to do the roll cancel shortly before the snow, so Mario stands still early and you can talk to Toad quickly. Mash through the dialogue, then start buffering a spin pound while being in the moon cutscene. Roll down and boost into the water. Jump out and do a triple jump off the little hill. Cap dive and dive, then jump, and once you're above the hole, ground pound. When landing in Shiveria, turn the camera towards the boxes. Then keep holding forward and, once Mario turns around, jump and dive. Triple jump and wall jump twice, then dive forward to bonk into the wall and collect the moon. Dive, center the camera and keep holding forward, then start roll boosting towards the shop. The geometry of the ground can make this a bit tricky. Rather, roll boost less or even stop rolling entirely if you feel like you go in every possible direction except the one you're aiming for. Definitely start running for the final part to go around the sign and enter the shop. To talk to the shopkeeper, you really don't have to move much. 2 steps towards the front left should already be enough. We've done a whole episode on mashing and menuing, so make sure to give that a watch if you haven't already. After grabbing the shop moon, simply roll towards the exit. Now jump and dive over the sign, then jump and dive again onto the umbrella. The whole movement up to the chest can be quite janky, and there are a lot of things that can go wrong here. So it's important that you know what you're doing to avoid losing time here, which is still quite common among runners of this skill level. First of all, it can help to land on the center of the umbrella, as that is the highest part and therefore you will also be launched the highest. Especially annoying can be the wall jump on the bridge. A very simple way to fix this is just not doing it. Sounds weird, but there is actually another way of making it up. After you get launched, cap throw and do a neutral bounce instead. Then do the wall jump on the right wall instead of the bridge. This way you won't get the weird downwards push. The best way of doing this is by gaining a lot of height from the launch and the cap bounce. This way you will now be able to throw Cappy above the railing. While diving, you can now home in to open the chest early. Then turn towards the moon and jump into it. Now dive and do 3 quick roll boosts. Then turn around the corner and roll down towards the next moon. Make sure you're comfortable with its position so it doesn't take you multiple tries to reveal it. This mostly comes down from experience. At some point, you will just develop a feeling for the right spot. While waiting for the moon to become obtainable, try turning the camera so it roughly faces this way. Now you can simply dive forward after the cutscene. Jump over the railing and try to turn the camera in a way that lets you see the entrance as soon as possible. Make your way in, then roll into the Blowy Joy room. As you may know, this room is a lot about catching a cycle. Missing it can result in a lot of pain and weird backup movement, so it's very recommended that you practice the movement you're about to learn a lot until you're consistent at it. Unfortunately, this is quite annoying to do, as the cycles in this room don't reset when you leave and re-enter it. The only ways to reset the cycle is by either entering the shop, warping, or dying. A good way of mimicking the normal cycle after a death is this. After the death, pay attention to the fade in animation. Once it's roughly halfway done, so around here, start moving. Yes, it's a bit weird to set up, but once again, it's very worth to practice this room. Alright, let's have a look at the actual movement now. Walk forward, then long jump, jump to the left of the Blowy Joy, then cap dive and dive. Make sure to avoid its hitbox, it is bigger than you might expect. Rather go too far left than too far right here, as hitting it will quickly result in a death. Centering the camera when long jumping can help here too, so you get a better idea of where you are in relation to the Blowy Joy. Once you land, roll boost, then long jump over the Spinies. Now double jump onto the wooden block and you should be right in time to get a triple jump off it with a lot of momentum from Joey's Blowy. Yeah. For this to work, it's important that you angle the double jump beforehand in a way that lets you get a triple jump in the right direction. So try to jump onto the block like this, instead of this. You might have to adjust your single jump as well in order to have the right distance. So instead of taking a straight line towards the block, you rather go in a small curve in order to be able to triple jump towards the moon in a relatively straight line. Again, it's all about timing and catching the cycle here. You have to be quick with your movement in the beginning, and it's super helpful if you're comfortable enough with this that you don't even have to think about it. Rather, let muscle memory do the trick. So make sure to practice this enough. Also, it's worth mentioning that there's an alternative way to the triple jump that you might want to give a try. Usually I don't teach any mid-movement spin pounds in this pace, but this one is quite helpful, so let's have a look at it. If you're good with spin pounds, or you have even implemented some of the higher paces in the previous episodes, you might prefer this movement over the triple jump method. The beginning of the room is the same, but after the double jump, start rotating the stick so you're in a spinning state when you land on the block. Then time a spin pound jump once the block gets pushed. Both methods, the spin pound and the triple jump, are quite common, so just decide for yourself which one feels more consistent. Once you get to a high level, however, you should really start doing the triple jump as it's a bit faster. No matter how you get the boosted jump, do a cap dive and a dive towards the moon, land and ground pound to reveal. The spin pound method will give you a little less height than the triple jump, so if you feel like you're short, make sure to do another cap throw before your final dive to the top. Now cap throw and dive. Avoid the Spinies and capture the Blowy Joy by either roll cancelling or simply cap throwing. Now move forward until you're close enough. To blow off the Spinies, it's important that you shake the controller instead of using a button press here. That way the blow will be a lot more powerful. Afterwards, just dive to the other side and triple jump into the moon. After the cutscene, jump and dive onto the pipe and enter it. Cap throw and dive to the right once possible. Roll boost once and enter the corridor. Then try to make your way to Goomba Room without bonking. Again, rather do less roll boosts here and maintain control over Mario than losing 2 seconds to a bonk. Inside, roll forward and roll cancel once you're in reach of the Goomba. Instantly throw Cappy again to capture it. Jump onto the next Goomba and make your way across the narrow bridge. You can throw in a shake jump here and there if you're confident in it, but don't be too fancy about it. Dying or killing Goombas here loses a ton of time, and for the SOB goal of this pace, it's really not necessary to go for the fast Goomba Vectors here. Always prioritize consistency for this. Trigger the icicle, then collect the other 2 Goombas. Make your way to the button, land on it and turn towards where the moon is. Then uncapture and dive towards it. You can just jump into it, but the more fun way is by roll boosting and bonking into the back wall right below the moon. Now dive and, once you land, throw Cappy to the left and jump. Dive to the other side and center the camera. Then long jump, and once you're close to the edge, long jump again and make your way to the other side. Roll boost twice and long jump into the moon. After the moon cutscene, there's a very easy way to always get a pipe suck here. Hold neutral and roll forward. Instantly when touching the ice, long jump and keep holding the L or the R. Now you should enter the pipe very speedy. To enter Rango Room, cap dive and dive towards it once you exit the pipe. Roll boost once, then double jump, dive and roll in. Inside, spin pound, double jump and instantly cancel it with a cap throw towards the wooden plug. Home in and dive. Make sure to not bonk into the pole and, while waiting for the gust, turn Mario around so he's facing away from where the plug was. Then time a backflip right before you get launched up. Once you're high enough, cancel the upwards momentum with a cap throw and a dive. Triple jump, then cap throw and bounce. Now don't dive into the second gust, but just enter it normally after the cap bounce. This way you can't bonk and won't lose control over Mario. Cap throw and dive, then jump and dive towards the hidden entrance. Long jump along the wall, then keep your momentum with 2 jumps towards the moon. Now simply dive into it. In this room, it's quite easy to lose your momentum by hitting walls, so often you will have to improvise some backup movement. It's definitely not a bad idea to practice this room for quite a bit as well, so you get used to as many scenarios as possible. Just a side note, when practicing Snow Dram specifically, they're all on the same map, so you have to rewarp to the checkpoint if you want to reset the cycles back to how they should be in runs. Now warp back to the Odyssey and spin throw to globe. With all of this, you can aim for a gold of at least 501. You might wonder, where the heck was Snow Dram, my favorite trick jump? Well, I wouldn't really recommend it quite yet, but I can promise it will be in the next pace. So, once you're ready for it, make sure to give that a watch.
When the time is right, then you should make a move. Hope it ain't taboo.
Next are the strats and tips for runners with a 102 or 103 who are trying to bring their SOB down to a time of around 101 flat. We will have a pretty big change in this pace, but let's look at some smaller ones first. When diving onto the wall here, now go for a roll boost and roll cancel off the edge. Then ground pound down to Shiveria once possible. Since we will start going for Snow Dram now, we won't go towards shop after the first Shiveria moon. Instead, roll boost twice, then jump and dive onto the umbrella. In the previous way, we looked at the wall jump to the right, which is still very much a possibility if you really dislike the bridge wall jump. I still want to quickly cover it here so you can figure out by yourself what you prefer. The bridge is a little bit faster, so you might want to consider going for it now. It's actually not that inconsistent if you start paying attention to something. What causes the downwards pushes is the snow on top. The game considers it a ceiling and Mario can bonk his head there if you're too close. The simple way to fix this is by trying to wall jump on the lower part of the bridge, so that's what you might have been missing so far if you were struggling here. For that, it might actually help to not actually dive onto the center of the umbrella. Hitting it closer to the edge sets up your height so you don't reach the bridge too high. So pay attention to where you land on the umbrella. After the wall jump, just cap throw and dive to the top and throw Cappy towards the chest to open it. After the moon, roll boost 3 times, like before, but now buffer a spin pound at the end to go around the corner. Then simply roll down the slope without boosting until you're at the bottom. Also, implement another spin pound to reveal the ground pound moon now. You can either jump and dive towards the spot, or simply stop rolling and do the buffer during a single jump. Both works fine for this pace. For Blowy Joy Room, you definitely want to watch the part about it in the previous pace. As you are probably more comfortable with spin pounds at this pace, consider both methods explained there again and decide which one you like more. Also, you can try to implement another spin pound to reveal the ground pound moon here now. And since we love spin pounds so much now, you can also go for one when diving onto the pipe so you get a pipe suck. After Goomba Room, we will now go towards shop. This can be quite awkward as you don't really see where you're rolling and it's easy to bonk because of that. When cap throwing and diving out of the pipe, hold straight down and maybe a little bit right on the left stick. Then, while rolling towards the shop, slowly turn the stick towards roughly 5 o'clock. This should usually set you up to avoid bonking and making it to the entrance. You might have to adjust a little though, so make sure to practice this movement a few times so you get a feeling for where the door is and how to turn the stick. after collecting the shop moon, warp back to the Odyssey. Alright, now it gets interesting. Time for Snow Dram. I can't stress this enough, Snow Dram is not a trick that you will learn in a matter of minutes, nor is it a trick to go for in runs until you have a very high success rate. And, if you're wondering, no, 50% is not a very high success rate, and neither is 80%. Keep in mind that in runs you additionally have to deal with nerfs, especially on a good pace. And the last thing you want to happen is losing 20 seconds to this trick because you didn't practice it enough. Make sure you are confident in this so you can also expect nailing it when being on PB pace or in a close race. Once you can genuinely say that that is true, you can implement it in your runs. In my opinion, a strat like Snow Dram is most easily implemented into runs by doing it on bad runs only. By doing that for a while, you will get a good feeling for it and keep your nerves once you ultimately decide to also do it in PB paced runs. Okay, now that you're warned, let's actually have a look at how it works. And well, if you thought this was about a trick jump, you're wrong. It's actually about 2 trick jumps, kinda. The jump onto the Odyssey is actually quite precise as well and can feel almost impossible when you're first learning it. Spin pound and hold down while gaining height. This is important so you're not too close to the Odyssey when you try diving onto it. At the peak, flick the stick around, up throw and dive. If you did everything correctly, you should now land on top. If you bonked, just try again. It will take a while to get used to it and soon you will miss it less and less. As we will go to the left of the orb, you can also try to already move slightly in that direction during your spin pound jump and dive. This will save you a little bit of time. Now on top, there's a specific spot you're looking for. Notice this corner. You want to position Mario right inside it so his feet barely don't overlap with the top line. By doing this, you're in the perfect spot to still get a vault by being as close to the edge as possible. Now there are 3 possibilities. One is setupless Snow Dram, which we will look at in later paces. The other 2 make use of first person. The most beginner friendly way is going into first person and then aligning yourself so you face exactly the right way. Notice this little arrow. You want to line it up with the small hook in front of you. Once you roughly did that, exit first person again and the setup is done. The second way of setting the jump up is by just entering and exiting first person mode very quickly. This is actually not much harder to do than the more precise setup, and I would recommend to at least give it a shot as it saves quite a bit over the slower setup. It's not very complex to do. You just don't mess with the camera at all after warping to the Odyssey, and usually it should naturally be in the right position to simply press the right stick twice. Alright, now for the actual trick jump. Throw Cappy and hold him out. Jump, instantly ground pound and roll forward. The aim is to vector the vault, so right before hitting Cappy you already want to hold a slight angle to the left on the stick. That way Mario will instantly start vectoring once hitting Cappy. Note that it is still possible that you moved slightly too far forward during the setup and that you get an aerial bounce instead of the vault because of that. In that case, you have to react quickly, dive back and reset up. If you got the vault though, vector it to the left and then cancel it at the right moment. So what's the right moment? Snow Dram is obviously about getting a maximum distance while still having enough height. So timing the inputs at the right moment is quite difficult as you're not only going for distance or height, you have to balance both factors in the right way. There's not only one way to do it, and if you pay some attention to how different runners do this, you will notice that there are usually some slight differences. People commonly find other runners' ways of doing Snow Dram very awkward because it's not what they're used to. Be aware that you have to find your own way of timing everything. In the end, it comes down to getting used to a way that you like and that consistently works for you. And that's probably the hardest part when first learning this trick. If you're asking for a rough timing for this cap throw though, it's when Mario reached the peak and already has started falling a little bit. Around this moment you should try moving on to the next step, which is the cap dive. Now, another very important thing to know in order to get consistent in Snow Dram is vectoring. It's not only about vectoring the vault. To actually maximize the distance, you want to vector other parts as well. And most importantly, you want to vector the cap bounce, which you're about to do. This can be a huge help. In the end, you want to end up roughly here, as that's the closest part of the platform. So to effectively vector towards there, you don't want to cap throw in that exact direction, because if you would do that, your cap bounce vector would aim slightly next to that spot. So what you're trying to do is aiming your cap throw slightly left or right, and then vector towards the spot. Also, you obviously want to get maximum height from the cap bounce, so make sure to wait for Mario doing a full spin before the dive. Now, when Cappy comes back, Rainbow Spin. The Rainbow Spin is a very underappreciated part of Snow Dram. Delaying the Rainbow Spin as much as possible is very crucial to get consistent at it, so really focus on that. I see a lot of people who start learning Snow Dram treat the Rainbow Spin as somewhat of a byproduct of the trick that they just have to do without paying much attention to it. If you figure that part out, your consistency will skyrocket. You can even vector the Rainbow Spin a little bit as well. Then finally cap throw and dive to the other side. Well, that's the goal at least. Of course, this is still a precise trick and it will probably take you a while to get it for the first time if you don't have much experience with trick jumping. Again, practice makes perfect. You will get better and better at it until eventually being ready to do it in runs. On the other side, roll boost once, then do a spin throw roll cancel towards the chest to open it. Now just jump into the moon and collect it. Afterwards, dive forward, center the camera and spin pound down towards where the Odyssey is. Cap dive and dive to the other side, then jump, spin throw and dive towards the globe. After learning Snow Dram and the remaining optimizations of this pace, you can now go for a gold of at least 444. For some more improvements, stick around for a bit longer. Here's another change of pace.
Hurry up quick, El Jefe's coming soon. Sit up straight when she enters the room.
This is for people who are going for a sum of best of around 59 flat, which is recommended for PBs of 100 and 101. There won't be too many changes in this pace. A lot comes from just cleaner and faster execution, so make sure to have a look at the previous paces as well. First thing I would like to look at again is the way from Toad to Shiveria entrance. It's really easy to lose control here if you just spam random roll boosts on the downward slope. I personally really like to actually time the second roll boost with a button press for more consistent results. Hold down and a little bit left after talking to Toad. Do a spin pound and roll in that direction. After that, center the camera and look for when Mario hits the ground again. Right at that moment, try to either time another shake or a button roll input. So consider messing around with this slope a bit to understand it better and figure out some good spots for the roll boosts. After entering Shiveria, now go for a quick jump and cap throw before the dive once you gain control over Mario. That way you can turn around quicker. Afterwards, continue with the movement as before. Also, an alternative way to get this moon a bit quicker is this. Spin pound in this direction, then jump and dive onto the higher platform. Make sure you land more on the left side, which will set you up for the right distance afterwards. Spin pound again and try to already face towards where the moon is. Then dive onto the boxes, and if your angle is good, you can simply backflip and dive into the moon. Personally, I'm not a big fan of this movement because of the weird way those boxes can behave sometimes, but a lot of people are consistent at it, so who am I to tell people to not go for it if it's fast and it works. Also, we are now going to implement Snow Clip. It really doesn't hurt going for it at this level, since even if you miss it, you won't lose much time. After the ground pound, face away from the wall, then time a backflip and cap throw towards the wall in the right moment, just like for Nut Clip. This clip can be a bit more tricky though, as there isn't some beat or rhythm you can make use of. So this one is a bit more about getting a feel for the right timing. If you get it though, cap throw to turn Mario around and instantly ground pound. Then roll forward, aim for the loading zone for Gloryjoy Room, cap dive and dive past the entrance to enter it. Inside, I'd recommend going for the triple jump method on the wooden block now, as that's a little bit faster. Also, go for a spin throw roll cancel to capture the Gloryjoy now. Also do another spin throw to capture him after hitting him once. For Goomba Room, there's also a small optimization you want to look at. Once you push the button, try to go for an instant dive out of the Goombas now. This can be risky though, because if the Goombas do not hit the button correctly, Mario will just take a dive into nothing and die. The biggest change is the movement from the first to the second moon though. Dive forward, roll boost, roll cancel to the left and jump. Then center the camera and do another 2 jumps to get a triple jump to the other side. Try to vector the triple jump a little bit, then cap dive and dive to the other side. Roll boost and do a spin through roll cancel jump into the moon. RCJs on ice work a little different from regular ones. Instead of aiming your cap throw to the left or right, you here have to angle it directly in the direction you also want to jump. So in this case, you simply roll cancel forward to where the moon is and jump. Now for the final optimization of this pace, let's jump all the way ahead to the end. After grabbing the Snow Dram moon, we now want to go for a roll cancel bounce towards the Odyssey. Dive forward, center the camera and do a roll boost. Then do an RCB to the right. It helps a lot if you can vector the bounce towards the Odyssey. So make sure you figure out the right angle for the RCB in order to be able to do that effectively. If you did a good job with the vector, you should make it all the way to the other side. Now you can just jump, spin throw and dive towards the globe. With a really good vector, you can even spin throw before landing. Alright, that's all I have for this pace. I would recommend going for a gold of at least 432 in order to reach the SOB goal. If you're looking to even push towards a 42x, it's a good idea to have a look at the final quarter of this video as well.
I'm human, I know when I fuck up, I'm feeling defiant. Salt in my wound, feel the burns from the tears that I'm crying. I'm human.
Finally, let's have a look at strats for runners with a sub-hour PB who are going for a target SOB of 58 flat. First of all, we're going to revisit the beginning. It's time to try to get more consistent at Clapfire now, which is the incredibly fast running speed you can get when landing. The main key for that is letting go of CL or ZR right before you land. Unfortunately, that's not the whole story though. For Clapfire to work, Mario needs to be full speed with the roll, which can be weird to achieve because of the very rigid floor at the top section. To get the full speed timing right, it makes sense to do the roll boosts beforehand in some quite specific spots. I like to roll forward, then do the first boost around here, where the slope gets less steep, and the second boost around here right before I roll off. Try to mess around with this for a bit until you understand this whole process of getting Clapfire. For the movement afterwards, you just run around the corner and start rolling once you made it through the icicles like this. Then continue with the movement as explained earlier in the video. Sometimes, if you try to roll too early, Mario will do a cap throw instead for some reason, which can be annoying, so if you find yourself having that problem, just try to delay the roll input a bit longer. There isn't much else before Shiveria, but I want to point out a backup you should get used to at this level. If you lose your speed from the roll boost down the slope, it's a good idea to go for a dive vault off the little hill. This is the fastest backup here and isn't too difficult, so keep this in mind and maybe practice it a few times so you're prepared to do it in runs. After the first Shiveria moon, try to go for 3 roll boosts towards the left of the NPC. Then roll cancel into him and double jump onto the umbrella. It's also possible to add another roll boost and then RCJ onto the umbrella directly. Both methods are fast, so pick one for yourself. Also, now try to simply roll onto the ground pound spot to uncover the moon, then spin pound as usual. After the moon clip, I like to go for an instant roll cancel after the ground pound. You will commonly get a double throw and can then move into Cappy to bounce far towards the loading zone. If you don't get the bounce, you can simply cap dive like before. Note though that the RCB method is not guaranteed to save time over the previous more basic method. If you tighten that one up a lot, it can be pretty much the same speed. The RCB can potentially be faster, but the problem is that the loading zone will only trigger once the text from the moon cutscene is gone. So going for the RCB only makes sense for you if you're not already making it to the entrance right when the text faded away. Or let's say the RCB gives a little more room for slowness while still triggering the loading zone as early as possible. Next, let's have a look at Spiny Manip. How can we make it more consistent? Generally, it's a little bit about improvisation, but you more or less still follow the same steps every time. 1. Pay attention to where the spinies are when you capture the Blowy Joy. 2. Pick one which is in the right position to be manipulated. Usually there should always be one in this area, which is perfect. 3. Move to a spot from where you can blow the spiny into the left part of the wall. Normally you have to move a bit to the left when going forward. Also, make sure to pay attention to where the spinies are moving. As you won't push the spiny you want to manipulate first, there will still be a little delay until it's blown towards the wall. So your position needs to be adjusted based on that. Now shake the controller to blow away the spinies from left to right, and if you're in the right spot, you should successfully keep that one spiny alive. Again, there are different scenarios here, so make sure to get used to them. The good thing about the Manip is that you don't really lose much time to not trying it if you miss it. So it doesn't really hurt going for it once you have a basic understanding of the trick. After the Manip, uncapture and dive to the other side. Then roll boost to the right of the spiny and roll cancel into it to knock it down. Instantly jump and dive to get as close to the moon as possible before the camera panning sets in. Sometimes it can happen that the spiny settles on the right side of the wall rather than the left side. In that case, you obviously mirror the previous movement, so you can roll cancel to the right instead. Alright, that's it for this row. Now let's look at the next one, shall we? There isn't too much to explain here, but you probably want to implement Goomba Vectors at this skill level. After capturing the first Goomba and jumping onto the second one, hold Y and go for a motion control jump. Then the fun part starts. Try to keep hopping using button presses. Jump left and right so the Goombas build up speed. I don't have to tell you this, it's a risky and scary strat, but it can save quite a bit of time if done correctly. Once you more or less figured out the pattern for the jumps, it gets easier, so practice this for a bit until you develop some good muscle memory for it. When reaching the bigger platform after the narrow path, jump past both Goombas, but try to trigger them so they run towards you. Keep Goomba vectoring towards the shadow of the icicle. Trigger the icicle, then go back and jump on the Goombas while the icicle is falling down. And as the final change for this video, let's make Snow Dram more difficult. And faster, of course. At this pace, we will get rid of the first person setup and just do the trick jump like it's nothing. Setupless, just like the easier version with first person, is definitely recommended to practice a lot. When making it to the top, take 1 or 2 small steps so Mario faces the right direction. Make sure to get a feeling for where to dive and walk so Cappy won't hit the orb to the right while still getting as much distance as possible. What makes setupless difficult is that the angle and vector are not as perfect as with the setup. So it's really important that you delay everything as much as possible and vector every piece of movement. The vault, the cap throw and even the dive towards Cappy. Vector the rainbow spin twice. This might be hard to understand. You kind of want to hold left before the rainbow spin, then right during most of the rainbow spin and left again shortly before it ends and you do the cap throw. Then vector the final cap throw and dive too. Also, I want to point out again that especially the rainbow spin should be delayed as much as possible since that's a common mistake. Some of these vectors might feel very awkward at first, so keep trying until they come more naturally. Okay, before we're done in this kingdom, let's run it back again as it's the tradition and highlight some invisible timesave. Ask yourself the following questions. Do you have a fast Shiveria entry? All the movement in the beginning is so much about taking good lines as well as getting good roll boosts and speed everywhere. If you feel like you're losing much time to other top runners, it's a good idea to analyze your movement and compare it in detail to faster players. Do you go for a fast dive into the first Shiveria moon? Do you wall jump low on the bridge and dive over the railing the moment you're high enough? Do you go for a fast roll cancel out of bounds? Is your spin pound for the first moon in Blowy Joy Room fast? People tend to delay this one. Do you take good lines towards Goomba Room? Do you have fast vectors and take a good line towards the icicle trigger? Do you jump onto the icicle as early as possible? Do you roll cancel quickly after the Goomba Moon? Do you take a good line towards the shop? Do you initiate the dialogue from far away? A few steps towards the shopkeeper are enough. Do you fully zoom out for the warp? Do you spend as little time as you can on top of the Odyssey when going for Snow Dram? Do you go for the RCB as early as possible and have a good vector back to the Odyssey? Pay attention to all of this, and a gold of at least 428 is a decent goal to reach the target SOB. And that's it pretty much for Snow. Thank you for showing your support by liking and further sharing this video. Also, thanks as always to my team. Eden, who checked the script for mistakes, Pandan recording clips, Lupus writing the script, Flavian helping out with strat ideas and suggestions, and Zach editing the episode. I also helped with the clips and script, and I tried my best to organize this group. It's not so simple, believe me. I'm Danster, and I'm gonna retire from speedrunning and become a professional trick jumper now. Just kidding, I would never. See you next time for Change of Pace for Seaside.